Welcome to AudioBook Heritage. Today we present The Majesty of Calmness by William George Jordan. Just All, Majesty of Calmness, Individual Problems and Possibilities by William George Jordan. Calmness is the rarest quality in human life. It embodies the poise of a great nature, in harmony with itself and its ideals. It represents the moral atmosphere of a life that is self-centered, self-reliant, and self-controlled. Calmness is defined by a singular purpose, absolute confidence, and conscious power, ready to be directed in an instant to face any crisis. The Sphinx is not a true representation of calmness. Petrifaction is not calmness. Rather, it is death, the silencing of all energies. No one lives life more fully, intensely, and consciously than the person who is calm, the fatalist, etc. On the other hand, is far from calm. He is the cowardly slave of his environment, hopelessly surrendering to his present condition and recklessly indifferent to his future. He views life as a rudderless ship, drifting aimlessly on the ocean of time, devoid of compass, chart, piston, or any known destination to which he is sailing. His self-confessed inferiority to nature is evident in his constant state of surrender. It is not calmness. The calm man has his life's course clearly marked on his chart. His hand is always on the helm. Storms, fog, night, tempests, danger, and hidden reefs, he is perpetually prepared and ready to face them. He remains calm and serene, understanding that in the crises of his voyage, he needs a clear mind and a cool head. He knows he must do his best each day with the light he has. He will never flinch or falter for a moment. Though he may have to adjust his course and deviate for a time, he will never drift aimlessly. He will return to the true channel. He will return to the true channel, ever steering toward his harbor. When he will reach it and how he will reach it matter not to him. He finds peace in his calmness, knowing he has given his best. If his best seems to be thwarted or overruled, he must still bow his head in calmness. No man is permitted to know the future of his life, the finality that lies ahead. God grants us only new beginnings, new wisdom, new days to make the best use of our knowledge. Calmness always arises from within. It embodies the peace and tranquility found deep within our nature. The storms and winds may agitate only the surface of the sea. They can reach down only 200 or 300 feet. Beyond that lies the calm, undisturbed depths. To prepare ourselves for the significant crises of life, we must cultivate serenity in our daily existence. Calmness is the crowning jewel of self-control. When the worries and stresses of the day cause you distress and begin to weigh heavily upon you, and you find yourself chafing under the pressure, be calm. Take a moment to pause, rest, and allow calmness and peace to reassert themselves. If you let those irritating external influences overpower you, you are admitting your inferiority by allowing them to dominate your state of being. Though all that cherished has slipped away, remain steadfast. You will rise from these ashes, for within me lies an unyielding spirit. I realize now that true resilience is not found in the absence of trials, but in my ability to face them with courage and serenity. This moment may feel heavy, but refuse to let despair consume me. Instead, we'll harness this experience, transforming my pain into strength and my loss into a foundation for new beginnings. Know that calmness is my refuge, and it will guide me as I seek to rebuild and reshape my future. So let it be. We'll build again. When the tongues of malice and slander rise against you, tempting you to seek revenge for just a moment, when you find yourself craving retribution, be calm. Consider the gray heron, pursued by its enemy, the eagle. It does not flee in panic. Rather, it stands its ground with dignity, facing the threat without flinching. With the fierce force of the eagle's attack, the so-called king of birds often finds itself impaled on the sharp, lance-like bill of the heron. The efforts one makes to tarnish another's character often lead to one's own demise. No one in this world has ever sought to harm another without suffering repercussions in some way at some time. The only weapon of offense that nature seems to acknowledge is the boomerang. Nature keeps her accounts remarkably well. She records every transaction and ultimately settles all debts, but she doesn't always balance the books by the end of the month. 2. The man who remains composed. Revenge feels so trivial that he cannot even lower himself to pursue it. When wronged, he doesn't seek vengeance. Instead, he doesn't seek vengeance. He envelops himself in the regal robes of calmness and continues on his path with quiet dignity. When death's hand touches our dearest loved ones, rendering us motionless and eclipsing the light of our lives, the calmness we have nurtured over the years becomes our sanctuary, our source of inner strength. The most insidious of temptations is the apparent success of the wicked. It demands immense moral courage to witness, without flinching, the material prosperity that befalls the dishonest, to observe politicians climbing to prominence, power, wealth, through deceit and corruption, to see virtue dressed in rags while vice is adorned in fine velvets, to recognize ignorance being valued while knowledge is dismissed. For the truly calm individual, these perplexities of life hold no allure. He is living his life to the best of his ability. He is not preoccupied with the challenges of justice, for those solutions must be left to the wisdom of a higher power. When a person develops the spirit of calmness to such an extent that it becomes an integral part of him, radiating from his very presence, he has significant strides in life. Calmness cannot be achieved in isolation. It must emerge as the result of cultivating a series of virtues. What the world needs, and what individuals seek, is a higher standard of living, a profound appreciation for the privilege and dignity of life, and a richer, nobler understanding of individuality. With this deep sense of calmness enveloping a person, he can retreat further into himself, distancing himself from the noise, confusion, and struggles of the world, which become mere distant echoes, or the tumult of city life that is perceived only as a gentle hum by someone floating in a balloon. The man who possesses calmness does not selfishly withdraw from the world, rather, is deeply engaged with everything that concerns the well-being of humanity. His tranquility serves as a sacred refuge, a place where he can retreat from the chaos to gather strength for living in the world. He understands that the true magnificence of individuality and the pinnacle of his self-control lies in the majesty of calmness. Hurry, the scourge of America. The first sermon ever delivered took place at the creation. It was a divine protest against haste, a perfect lesson in law, order, and method. 6 days of meticulously planned work were followed by a day of rest. Whether we take this account literally or metaphorically, whether we see it as a sequence of days or as ages spanning millions of years, is of little consequence as long as we grasp the essential lesson. Nature, in all its wisdom, is quite the opposite of modern American culture. Nature never hurries. Each aspect of its workings demonstrates careful planning, calmness, reliability, and the complete absence of haste. Hurry always suggests a lack of a clear method, leading to confusion and an impatience for slow growth. The Tower of Babel, the world's first skyscraper, is quite the opposite of modern American culture, stands as a testament to this failure born from haste. The workers confused their overwhelming ambition for inspiration. They had too many builders, but no architect. They believed that the absence of leadership could be compensated for by having a surplus of hands. This is the essence of hurry. It often substitutes energy for a well-defined plan. The outcomes are as futile as trying to turn a hobby horse into a real steed through mere enthusiasm. Hurry is a deception, subjective, and often mistaken for haste. Haste, on the other hand, has a purpose, a clear goal that it strives to achieve through the most efficient means. Haste operates from a single compass that it trusts for direction, allowing it to determine its path in harmony with that aim. In contrast, hurry insists, "You must move faster." We'll gather 3 compasses, each different no matter what, and will attempt to follow them all. One of them is likely to be right, Hurry never realizes that taking the time to build a solid foundation is ultimately the quickest approach. Hurry has caused more harm to Americans than any other word in the lexicon of life. It is the bane of our society, both a cause and a symptom of our relentless, high-pressure civilization. Hurry skillfully dons many disguises, making it difficult to recognize its true nature. It always pays the highest price for everything, and more often than not, the promised goods are never delivered. In the pursuit of wealth, individuals often sacrifice time, energy, health, and so on. Home, happiness, and honor, everything that money cannot buy, the very things that money can never reclaim. Hurry is an enigma of contradictions. Business people, in their quest to secure a future of happiness for their families, frequently end up sacrificing the present joy of their spouses and children on the altar of hurry. They forget that their role in the home should encompass so much more than being just the man who pays the bills. They expect consideration and thoughtfulness from their spouses, yet fail to offer the same in return. We hear far too much about a wife's duties to her husband, and far too little about the other side of the equation. The wife, they say, should greet her husband with a smile and a kiss, should attentively gauge his moods, and embody sweetness and sunshine. Why this constant focus on devotion to the businessman? Why must a woman look up with a timid glance at her husband's face to assess his mood? Hasn't her day been filled with its own cares, responsibilities, and vigilance? Hasn't a mother's love been invested in navigating the complex problems and concerns of home and the upbringing of their children? Why is it important to her to assess his mood and make and carry out her decisions in silence? Is man truly the weaker sex, needing to be coddled and treated with the utmost care, as if he were a fragile thing trying to avoid the harshness of the world? In their rush to achieve ambitions and fulfill dreams, men often cast aside honor, truth, and generosity. Politicians stand idly by as a city suffers from contaminated water, all while waiting to see how they might benefit from a waterworks appropriation. If it becomes necessary to poison an army, that too is merely a minor detail in the relentless pursuit of wealth. We live in the age of the hothouse, where natural growth is sidelined, replaced instead by artificial methods and forceful interventions. Nature observes with a resigned tolerance, saying, "You may go this far, contaminated water, but no further, my foolish children." Today's educational system stands as a monumental institution devoted to this hurried mindset. Children are compelled to race through an array of studies that encompass the entirety of human knowledge. They are filled with whatever the age's ambitious ignorance deems valuable. They learn everything but what truly matters, how to use their senses and how to think. Their minds become bogged down with a heavy mass of undigested facts. And yet the relentless and barbaric pressure continues. You watch it unfold until it feels unbearable. And instinctively, you reach out and say, "Stop. This modern slaughter of the innocents must not go on." Education greets your protest with a smooth smile, lazily gesturing toward her countless knowledge prisons scattered across the nation, and replies, "Who are you to question our sacred school system?" Education is in a rush. She should not be too proud when, in a mere 15 years, she fails to achieve what could be accomplished in half that time through better methods. Incompetence is not a badge of honor. Instead, children are hurried through a myriad of textbooks, then into ill health, then into colleges, then handed a diploma, and finally thrust into life with bewildered minds, untrained and ill-prepared for the actual responsibilities of living. Hurry is the death knell for calmness, dignity, and poise. The old-fashioned courtesy faded as the modern rush took over. Hurry is the cause of many ailments, and in the frenzy of our national life, Fast eating has become a widespread habit. The phrase quick lunches could fittingly appear on countless gravestones in our cemeteries. Mankind often forgets that he is the only creature that dines. The rest merely feed. Why does he relinquish his right to a proper meal, opting instead to join the ranks of those who merely consume? His self-respecting stomach rebels, responding with the discomfort of indigestion. As a result, he navigates life with a small bottle of pepsin tablets tucked in his pocket. He becomes yet another victim of this obsession with speed. Hurry leads to a breakdown of the nerves and paves the way to nervous exhaustion. All that is truly great in life is a product of slow and steady growth. The more innovative, grand, and noble the endeavor, the slower its development tends to be, and the more assured its lasting success becomes. Mushrooms may reach their full maturity overnight, but oaks take decades to grow. Trend has a fleeting existence, lasting only a few weeks. A philosophy endures through generations and centuries. If you are confident in your beliefs, do not allow the opinions of the world, or even the voices of friends and family, to sway you from your path for a moment. Embrace slow growth if that's what it takes, and trust that the results will come. Just as you would accept the long, solitary hours of the night, filled with the absolute assurance that those heavy, leaden moments will usher in the dawn. Let us resolve, as individuals, to banish the word hurry from our lives. Let us prioritize nothing so greatly that we would sacrifice our honor and self-respect for the sake of hastening it. Let us cultivate calmness, restfulness, poise, and sweetness, doing our best, enduring all challenges as bravely as we can, living our lives undisturbed by the success of the wicked or the envy of the malicious. Let us practice patience, resisting the urge to chafe at delays, fret over failures, tire over outcomes, weaken under opposition. Let us always face the future with confidence and trust, embodying the calmness of a life that is in harmony with itself, true to its ideals and steadily progressing towards their realization. Let us recognize that cowardly word hurry in all its most degrading forms. Let us understand that it undermines truth, loyalty, and thoroughness. And let us decide that each day we will strive more and more to replace it with the tranquility and serenity of a life nobly lived. The power of personal influence, the one responsibility a person cannot evade in this life, is the one they often think of the least: his personal influence. Man's conscious influence, when he is on display, when he is posing to impress those around him, is sadly minimal. However, there's more to this than meets the eye. His unconscious influence, the silent, subtle radiation of his personality, the impact of his words and actions, the seemingly trivial matters he often overlooks is immense. Every moment of his life, he is subtly altering the course of the world. Every man carries an atmosphere that affects everyone around him. This influence is so silent and unconscious that one might easily forget it exists. All the forces of nature, heat, light, electricity, and gravity, operate in silence and remain hidden from our sight. We never truly see them. We only recognize their existence by observing the effects they create. In the grand tapestry of nature, that's them. The wonders we can see are dwarfed by the majesty and glory of the unseen. Even the great sun does not provide enough heat and light to sustain life on Earth. We rely on the stars for nearly half of our light and warmth, much of which comes from invisible stars millions of miles away. In countless ways, nature continually urges us to attain a deeper understanding of the power and beauty of the invisible. In the hands of each individual lies a remarkable power, capable of bringing forth either good or evil, the silent, unconscious, and unseen influence of one's life. This influence stems from the constant emanation of what a person truly is, rather than what they project or pretend to be. Each person, simply through their existence, radiates qualities such as sympathy, sorrow, and sadness, morbid thoughts, cynicism, happiness, hope, and countless others. Life itself is a continual process of radiation and absorption. To exist means to emit a personal energy and to also be open to receiving the energies of others. Some individuals possess a presence that seems to emanate warmth, joy, and optimism. Just being near them can bring a sense of calm, renewal, and a stronger belief in humanity. Conversely, there are those whose presence can instantaneously amplify feelings of distrust, negativity, and rebellion against life. For reasons you might not even understand, you find yourself feeling restless and agitated in their company. You can lose your sense of direction regarding life and its challenges, causing your moral compass to feel unsteady and unsatisfactory. In an instant, truth can be turned upside down, much like how the magnetic needle of a ship is thrown off course when it nears massive iron ore mountains. There are individuals who navigate through life like icebergs, cold, aloof, unapproachable, and entirely self-contained. In their company, you instinctively pull your coat a little tighter, wondering who left the door open. These chilling figures exert a profoundly depressing influence on anyone caught in their frosty aura. On the other hand, there are those with warm, inviting, and friendly dispositions, akin to the Gulf Stream, who chart their own course, unyielding and undeterred amidst the surrounding colder waters. Their presence radiates warmth and vitality, bringing the illuminating touch of sunlight and the rejuvenating breath of spring. Conversely, there are others who resemble malarious swamps, poisonous, oppressive, and enervating by merely existing in a space. They create a heavy, expressive, still, and gloomy atmosphere within their own homes. The sound of children's play is silenced, and the ripples of laughter are frozen in their presence. They navigate through life as if each day were a grand funeral, with themselves cast as the chief mourners. In contrast, there are those who embody the essence of the ocean. They are invigorating and stimulating, infusing life and strength simply through their presence. Yet, there are also individuals whose hearts lack sincerity, and this insincerity is palpable in their aura. They display a remarkable interest in your well-being, only when they need something from you. Their property smile appears almost instantaneously, as if activated by some hidden electric button sewn into their clothing. Their voices carry a feigned warmth, cultivated through long practice until it nearly feels genuine, but they never play their part completely true. The mask will slip, at times. Their cleverness can't teach their eyes to embody genuine honesty. While they may deceive some people, they can't fool everyone. There exists a subtle power of revelation that leads us to say, "Can't quite explain it, but know that man is not honest." No one can escape, even for a moment, the radiance of their character, which constantly weakens or strengthens others. They can't dodge the responsibility by claiming it's an unconscious influence. They can choose the qualities they allow to shine through. They can cultivate sweetness, calmness, trust, generosity, truth, justice, loyalty, and nobility, making these traits fully active in their character. And through these qualities, they will continually impact the world. Discouragement often visits honest souls striving to do their best. Discouragement often visits honest souls striving to do their best, as they grapple with the feeling that they are making so little difference in the world. Seemingly insignificant moments may act as vital connections in the unfolding of a grand purpose. In 1797, William Godwin penned The Inquirer, a collection of revolutionary essays addressing morals and politics. This influential work inspired Thomas Malthus to write his own Essay on Population, which was published in 1798. Malthus's ideas would eventually reach Charles Darwin, shaping a perspective to which he devoted many years of his life. This effort culminated in 1859 with the release of The Origin of Species, the most transformative book of the 19th century, a work that forever changed the landscape of science. These three instances represent only a few links in a chain of influence that spans over 60 years. It may even be possible to trace this lineage of impact back from Godwin through the generations, all the way to the word or action of some shepherd in early Britain. Quietly watching over his flock on the hills. Living a simple life. Passing away with the belief that he had done nothing to change the world. Both men and women have responsibilities to others and to themselves. In fairness to ourselves, we must refuse to exist in an environment that hinders us from living our best lives. If the fault lies within us, we should strive to overcome it. If it's the personal influence of others that, like a toxic mist, stifles our positive impulses, we ought to distance ourselves from that influence if we can do so without neglecting our responsibilities. If moving away is not an option, that should be your preference. Then we should take strong doses of moral tonic to counteract the detrimental effects of such influence. What truly matters is not what those around us do for us, but what they represent in our lives. Just as we move our houseplants from one window to another to provide them with the right heat, light, air, and moisture, shouldn't we be at least as mindful of ourselves? To make our influence felt, we must live out our beliefs. The parents' words say, "Don't lie," while their actions communicate, "Do lie." No one can isolate themselves from the constant power of influence, just as no single blood cell can rebel against the overall flow of blood. No individual is so insignificant as to lack influence. Our shifting moods are reflected in the sensitive barometers of the lives of those around us. We should allow our influence to come through channels of love and empathy. We shouldn't just be an influence. We should be an inspiration. Through our very presence, we ought to be a pillar of strength for the yearning souls around us. The dignity of self-reliance. Self-confidence without self-reliance is as useless as a cooking recipe without food. Self-confidence recognizes the potential within an individual, while self-reliance brings that potential to life. Self-confidence envisions the angel hidden in the uncut block of marble, whereas self-reliance is the force that chisels it into being. Self-reliant person continually affirms, "No one can realize my possibilities for me, but me. No one can determine my goodness or my flaws, but myself." They actively seek out their own path to salvation financially, socially, mentally, physically, and morally. Life presents itself as a personal challenge, one that each person must resolve on their own. Nature accepts no substitutes, no secondhand sacrifices. It doesn't acknowledge proxy votes. It engages solely with the individual. Nature persistently aims to teach each person that they can be their own greatest ally or their own most formidable adversary. Ultimately, it is up to each individual to choose what role they will play in their own lives. All the athletic exercises in the world hold no value for an individual unless they force those bars and dumbbells to yield strength and muscle in return for the time and effort invested. No one can develop their muscles by merely sending a valet to the gym. The medicine cabinets of the world remain powerless, entirely in despite all their collective efforts, entirely in despite. To assist an individual until that person reaches out and claims what is necessary to address their own personal weaknesses. All the religions across the globe are merely speculations on morals, mere theories of salvation. Never, until the individual understands that they must save themselves by adhering to the law of truth as they perceive it, and living their life in harmony with that understanding, to the best of their capability. However, religion is not a luxury train with plush seats. where all one has to do is pay for a ticket while someone else handles everything else. In religion, just as in all other significant aspects of life, one is always thrown back on their own self-reliance. He should accept all help, but ultimately, he must live his own life. He should not see himself as just a passenger. He is the engineer, and the train represents his life. We must rely on ourselves and take charge of our own lives, or we risk merely drifting through existence, losing all that is best, all that is great, all that is divine. All that others can do for us is to provide opportunities. We must always be ready for those opportunities when they arise, and we must actively seek them out when they do not present themselves. When they do not present themselves, or else those opportunities will mean nothing to us. Life is simply a series of opportunities, good or bad, shaped by our actions. Many of the alchemists of old believed they were missing just one crucial element. They thought that if they could find it, they could transform base metals into pure gold. The same goes for character. There are individuals with extraordinary mental abilities and finely tuned spiritual insight who fail completely in life because they lack one essential ingredient: self-reliance. This would unify all their energies, channeling them into strength and power. Man who lacks self-reliance is weak, hesitating, and filled with doubt in everything he undertakes. He is afraid to make a decisive move, paralyzed by the fear of failure, waiting for someone else to guide him, or too timid to trust his own best judgment. In his cowardice and self-importance, he blames his lack of success on others. He feels unappreciated, unrecognized, and believes he is being held back. He grows increasingly self-absorbed, convinced that no one has endured such poverty. Thus, in sorrow, affliction, or failure, as he has experienced. In contrast, a self-reliant person continuously seeks to identify and overcome the weaknesses within themselves that prevent them from achieving their deepest desires. They look within for the strength to combat all external influences. He understands that throughout history, the greatest men in every field of human endeavor have been those who faced sickness, suffering, sorrow, and sorrow against overwhelming odds. To him, defeat is nothing more than a traveler passing through a tunnel. He knows that he must eventually emerge into the sunlight once again. The strongest nation is the one that is most self-reliant, the one that contains within its borders all the essentials its people need. If, while its ports are blockaded, it lacks the necessities of life and the elements required for continual progress, then it is weak, vulnerable to the enemy, vulnerable, and it is only a matter of time before it must surrender. Its independence is directly related to its self-reliance, to its ability to sustain itself from within. What is true for nations is equally true for individuals. The history of nations is essentially the biography of individuals, magnified, intensified, magnified, multiplied, and projected onto the canvas of the past. History is the biography of a nation, and biography is the history of an individual. It follows that the individual who remains strongest in times of trial, sorrow, or need is the one who draws from their own inherent strength, who requires no structure of ordinary sympathy to support them. This individual must always be self-reliant. The wealth and prosperity of ancient Rome, built upon the labor of slaves, ultimately led to its downfall. The continuous dependence on war captives to manage the countless details of life stifled self-reliance, both in the nation as a whole and in its people. As self-reliance weakened and the opportunities for idleness and luxury increased, Rome transformed from a nation of warriors into one of men who were more effeminate than women. As we rely on others to perform the tasks we should undertake ourselves, our self-reliance diminishes, along with our abilities and our control over them. To achieve greatness, a man must be self-reliant. Though he may not be self-reliant in every aspect of life, a man must cultivate it in the area where he seeks greatness. This form of self-reliance is not merely the arrogance of believing one is self-sufficient. It involves the courage to stand alone. Be like an oak tree, firm and steadfast, rather than a vine that relies on support. Offer assistance to others, but do not seek it out or depend on it. To truly develop your self-reliance, you must recognize from the outset that life is a battle you must fight for your own sake. Be your own soldier. There are no substitutes to be bought, no reprieves to be won, and no one is placed on a retirement list in this regard. The ultimate retirement from life is death. The world around you is preoccupied with its own troubles, joys, and sorrows, and it pays little attention to your individual struggles. The one key to success lies in self-reliance. If you wish to improve your communication skills, immerse yourself in situations where you must engage in conversation. If you want to overcome your feelings of melancholy, connect with the vibrant people around you, no matter how challenging that may feel. If you desire the power that someone else possesses, do not waste your energy envying their strength or merely wishing that their force were yours. Instead, emulate the process that led to their achievements. Rely on yourself, be prepared to pay the price, and you may find that equal power can be yours. Consider yourself an investment, full of untapped potential that can only be revealed by delving deep within and uncovering what lies hidden. Person can cultivate self-reliance by consistently striving to surpass their own limits. We often focus too much on overtaking others. However, if we concentrate on surpassing our own previous selves, we create a steady path of progress that harmonizes all aspects of our growth. Daniel Morrell, who once served as the president of the Cambria Rail Works, a company that employed 7,000 individuals and produced a rail renowned worldwide, was once asked about the secret behind the extraordinary success of the works. "We have no secret," he said, "but this: we always strive to surpass our last batch of rails. Competition holds its merits, yet it comes with risks. There's a tendency to compromise true value for mere appearances, to prioritize the superficial over the substantial. However, the most genuine competition is the one an individual has with themselves, where the present seeks to outshine the past. This signifies authentic growth that emerges from within. Self-reliance nurtures this growth, and, in turn, it cultivates self-reliance. When a person recognizes their own progress and potential, they can almost shape their life as they wish. It's essential not to succumb to despair over distant challenges and sorrows. They may prove as harmless as Bunyan's stone lions when faced up close. Its self-reliant individual does not dwell in the shadows of someone else's greatness. Instead, they think for themselves, depend on themselves, and act for themselves, in bringing the individual back to themselves. It doesn't mean turning a blind eye to the warmth and vitality that come from a supportive hand, a kind word, or the genuine expressions of true friendship. However, true friendship is rare. Its greatest value emerges in times of crisis, much like a lifeboat. Many a claimed friend has proven to be a leaky, ineffective lifeboat when the storm of adversity could have made them truly valuable. In those critical moments in life, a person's strength is rooted within, and the more they rely on themselves, the stronger they become, equipping them to assist others in their times of need. Their very existence can become a constant source of support and strength for others, as they embody a living testament to the dignity of self-reliance. Often, it takes immense courage to confront fruitless efforts, to gather the scattered threads of a life's work, to face the future with bravery, and to proceed undeterred on our path. But what may appear to us as a hopeless failure is often merely the beginning of a greater success. Within its remnants, it may hold the foundational elements for a grand purpose or reveal new and elevated possibilities. Some years ago, there was a proposal to transport logs from Canada to New York using an innovative method. Mr. Joggins devised an ingenious plan to bind large logs together with cables and iron girders, intending to tow the cargo as a raft. Just as the novel vessel approached New York and success seemed within reach, a fierce storm erupted. In the tempest's fury, the iron bands broke like icicles, scattering the logs in all directions. The chief of the hydrographic department in Washington learned of the experiment's failure and promptly notified shipmasters around the world, urging them to look out for these logs, which he described in detail. He advised them to record the exact location of each log in latitude and longitude, along with the time of each sighting. Hundreds of captains, navigating the vast waters of the globe, recorded their sightings of the logs spotted in the Atlantic Ocean, the Mediterranean, and the South Seas, as these adventurous sailors ventured into every corner of the deep. Over weeks and months, countless reports poured in. These observations were meticulously gathered, organized, and analyzed, leading to significant discoveries about ocean currents that would have otherwise remained unknown. The loss of the Joggins raft was not a true failure. Rather, it paved the way for one of the monumental breakthroughs in modern marine geography and navigation. With our advanced knowledge, we may tend to look back at the alchemists of old with a sense of superiority, judging their pursuits as folly. Yet, their inability to transform base metals into gold ultimately gave birth to the field of chemistry. They may not have achieved their original goals, but they brought to prominence the natural processes of sublimation, filtration, distillation, and crystallization. They invented valuable tools such as the alembic, the retort, the sand bath, and the water bath. We owe to them the discovery of antimony, sulfuric ether, sulfurous, and phosphorus, as well as techniques like the cupellation of gold and silver, the identification of saltpeter's properties and its application in gunpowder, and the distillation of essential oils. This represents the success that comes from failure, a wondrous process of nature that fosters growth. It's a powerful lesson of comfort, strength, and encouragement, if only humanity would recognize and embrace it. Many of our failures propel us to greater heights of success than we ever imagined in our wildest dreams. Life is a continual unfolding of successes that arise from failure. In discovering America, Columbus may have failed completely. His clever reasoning and experiments led him to believe that by sailing westward, he would reach India. Every Native American carries the name Indian, a lasting reminder of Columbus's failure. The Genoese navigator never reached India. The souvenirs he brought back to Spain to showcase to Ferdinand and Isabella were not symbols of his success, but of his failure. Yet, the discovery of America turned out to be a far greater achievement than merely finding a shortcut to India. David Livingstone, having complemented his theological studies with medical training, was ready to embark on his journey as a missionary. For more than 3 years, he had dedicated himself to rigorous study, focused entirely on one goal: to spread the gospel in China. At last, the moment arrived when he was filled with noble enthusiasm, ready to commit himself and his life to his selfless ambition. But then, news came from China that the Opium War would make it foolish to even attempt to enter the country. Disappointment and failure did not deter him for long. He offered himself as a missionary to Africa, and he was accepted. His glorious failure to reach China opened an entire continent to light and truth. His studies had ideally prepared him for his roles as physician, explorer, teacher, and evangelist in the wilds of Africa. Business reverses and the failure of his partner placed a heavy burden of responsibility on the broad shoulders and the even broader honor and integrity of Sir Walter Scott, compelling him to write. This setback spurred him to almost superhuman efforts. The masterpieces of Scottish historical fiction that have thrilled, entertained, and entertained, and uplifted millions of his fellow men stand as a glorious testament to what might appear to be a failure. When Millais, the painter of Angelus, worked on his nearly divine canvas, where the very air seems to pulse with the regenerating essence of spiritual reverence, he painted against time, antidoting sorrow, racing against death. His brushstrokes, Angelus, applied in the early morning hours before heading to his menial job as a railway porter, captured the dusk that lingered on his canvas, each stroke symbolizing strength, sustenance, substance, and healing for the ailing wife he cherished. The artistic failure that plunged him into poverty ignited a marvelous intensity within him, uniting all the finer elements of his spirit. This rare spiritual cohesion, this purging of the trivial as he endured the trials of hardship and sorrow, lent an eloquence to his brush that allowed him to paint as never before, something no amount of prosperity could have fostered. Failure often acts as a turning point, a pivotal moment that propels us to greater heights. It may not bring financial success or fame. Rather, it might offer us new sources of spiritual, moral, or intellectual inspiration that can transform our lives for many years to come. Life is not merely about what comes our way, but rather about what we take from it. Whether a man has experienced wealth or poverty, failure or success, matters little once the moment has passed. There is but one question he must confront, candidly and courageously, standing alone with his conscience and his fate. How will allow that poverty or wealth to shape me? If that struggle or deprivation has made me better, truer, and nobler, then poverty has indeed been a form of riches, and failure a form of success. Conversely, if wealth has entered my life and turned me vain, arrogant, then wealth has deceived me and aided me into conduct, and cynical, shutting me off from all the tenderness of life and from avenues of higher development and the potential to do good for others, reducing me to nothing more than a mere keeper of a money bag. Then wealth has deceived me. It has been a failure, not a success. It has not been true riches, but a dark, treacherous form of poverty that has stripped me of my very self. Ultimately, everything becomes for us what we choose to take from it. Failure serves as one of God's greatest teachers. It is experience that guides man toward greater heights. It reveals a path that we had not previously known. The finest individuals in the world, those who have achieved true success with a sense of calm and happiness. The passage of time casts everything in a beautifully illuminated and satisfying light. Many men today are grateful that some minor success they once pursued has faded away just as they reached for it. Failure often serves as the solid foundation for genuine success. If a man can look back at certain moments in his life and say, "Those failures were the best things that ever happened to me," shouldn't he approach new failures with unwavering courage, trusting that nature's miraculous ways might transform these new challenges into fresh opportunities? Our highest hopes are frequently shattered to make way for something even better. The failure of the caterpillar marks the birth of the butterfly. The withering of the bud paves the way for the blossoming of the rose. The death or destruction of the seed serves as the prelude to its resurrection as wheat. It is often in the night, during the darkest hours just before dawn, that plants grow most vigorously, increasing in size and strength. Might this be one of nature's gentle reminders to mankind about the moments when he grows best in the darkness of failure that transforms into the sunlight of success? Let us fear only the failure of not living according to our beliefs, leaving the outcomes in the care of the infinite. When we reflect on any profound moment of our lives, any significant success, or anyone we hold dear, then we consider how we arrived at that moment, achieved that success, or formed that friendship. We are often surprised and uplifted by the revelation. As we trace each moment back, step by step, through the intricate web of circumstances, we begin to understand the logical progression of our joy and success. even when rooted in sorrow and failure. What brings us the most happiness today is often inextricably linked to experiences that once brought us pain. Many of the rivers that nourish our greatest prosperity and growth have their origins and gradual increases in volume flowing from the dark, gloomy depths of our failures. There is no sincere and honest endeavor, carried out with a constant purpose, that ultimately results in true failure. Even if it may seem like a wasted effort at times, it will teach us a valuable lesson about how to move forward. Our failures will turn into inspiration for future successes. Person who strives to live with the highest aims, doing their best to stay in harmony with those aims, is a success, regardless of what a nearsighted and partially blind world of critics may label as failures. High ideals and noble efforts may lead to what appear to be failures, but these should not discourage us. Instead, they can be sources of renewed strength. The rocky road may prove safer than the smooth path that seems easy. Birds do not fly best with the wind at their back, but against it. Ships do not make progress in calm waters when their sails flap idly against the unstrained masts. The alchemy of nature, far superior to that of the alchemists, constantly transforms the baser metals of failure into the pure gold of higher success, provided that the worker's mind remains true, steadfast, and tireless in its efforts, and that they possess the sublime courage to defy fate at its worst while striving to do their best. Doing our best at all times, life presents a wonderfully complex puzzle for the individual until one day, in a moment of clarity, they awaken to the profound realization that they can simplify it, though never entirely simple, always becoming simpler. There are countless mysteries of right and wrong that have perplexed the wise throughout the ages. There are depths in the fundamental questions of humanity that no philosophical inquiry has ever fully explored. There are cries of genuine hunger for truth that yearn to break the silence of what lies beyond the grave, yet they only echo back, repeating their unanswered pleas. We all experience at times a profound sense of despair that clouds our horizon and paralyzes our efforts. If there truly is a God, if eternal justice really governs the world, we ponder, then why is life the way it is? Why do some suffer while others thrive? Why does virtue often languish in obscurity while vice basks in glory? Why does failure so frequently shadow heroic effort, while success born of deception and dishonor is celebrated by society? How is it that one loving father is taken by death, while another, unworthy and burdensome, is allowed to remain? Why is there so much unnecessary pain, sorrow, and suffering in the world? Why should there be any at all? Neither philosophy nor religion can provide a final, satisfactory answer that holds up to logical scrutiny or absolute proof. Even after the best attempts at explanation, there remains a residue of the unexplained. We must then seek refuge in the eternal arms of faith and possess the wisdom to say, "Will not be troubled by these life's dilemmas. I refuse to let them lead me into doubt or cloud my existence with ambiguity and uncertainty." Humanity often overestimates its role when it demands that the infinite reveal all the answers to his mysteries. Instead, I will base my life on the unshakable foundation of a simple, fundamental truth. This magnificent creation, with its millions of awe-inspiring phenomena, continuously pulsating in harmony with eternal law. And this must have a creator. And that creator must be all-knowing and all-powerful. But that creator himself cannot, in justice, demand of any creature more than the best that individual can give. Each day, in every moment, will strive to do my best, guided by the light possess, will continuously seek more light, a deeper understanding of truth, and endeavor to live as harmoniously as can with the truth as perceive it. Should failure come, will face it with bravery. If my journey leads me through shadows of trials, sorrow, and suffering, will find solace in the peace and strength that comes from knowing have done my utmost. Will look back on the past without regret and embrace the courage required to confront the outcomes, whatever they may be, fully aware that could not have altered them. On this life plan, this foundation, one may build any structure of religion or philosophy that they can conscientiously construct. It is vital to gather every scrap of strength and inspiration, be it moral, mental, or spiritual, that one can secure for the journey of life. This straightforward faith is not in opposition to any creed, nor is it a substitute for one. It serves as a fundamental belief, a fortress, a sanctuary where an individual can seek strength when the struggles of life become overwhelming. Mere theoretical approach to life, which remains just that, merely theoretical, is as useful to a person as a gilded menu is to a starving sailor adrift in the vast ocean. It may be frustrating, but it brings no real encouragement. No guideline for living a higher life will aid a person in any way unless they reach out and make it their own, unless they put it into practice in their everyday life. Those seeds of theory in their mind must bloom into a multitude of thoughts, words, and actions. If someone genuinely strives to live their best in every moment, that commitment will be reflected in every aspect of their life, where not even the smallest detail can escape embodying their principle of existence. Just as the sun shines upon and beautifies a fallen leaf by the roadside, it does so equally for the majestic peaks of the Alps. Every drop of water in the ocean embodies the chemistry of the entire sea. Each drop adheres to the same fundamental laws that govern the collective infinity of billions of drops, creating the miracle of nature we call the ocean. Regardless of how humble an individual's occupation may be, or how mundane the tasks they perform, they ought to elevate their work by the intent and effort they invest in it, infusing whatever little power, energy, ability, and each drop adheres to the same fundamental laws that govern the collective infinity of billions of drops, preparing themselves to meet greater privileges when they arise. This mindset will not lead to a passive contentment that simply accepts whatever comes their way. Instead, it will fill their mind with a noble discontent, one that gladly embraces the best as a temporary substitute for something even greater. The person who constantly seeks to do their utmost is the one who remains sharp, active, alert, and proactive. He is always attentive to the small details in his life. His guiding principle is not, "What will the world think?" but rather, "Is it worthy of me?" Edwin Booth, one of the greatest actors on the American stage, would never allow himself to adopt an ungraceful posture. Even in his private moments, in this simple commitment, he consistently exemplified his best self. On stage, every movement of his was infused with an effortless grace. Those in his company, who were aware of their actions, often came across as clumsy, desperately trying in public to mask or rectify the carelessness of their private gestures. Person who is careless and inattentive in their everyday speech, who relies on a bland vocabulary filled with trite phrases and indistinct interjections, merely offers weak facades to hide their lack of original thought. And they will never shine brilliantly when they wish to outshine the stars. Living at one's best means embracing a constant state of readiness for any opportunity that may arise. It can never make one overly precise, self-conscious, affected, or prudish. Education, in its highest sense, is the conscious training of the mind or body to act unconsciously. It involves the deliberate formation of mental habits rather than merely acquiring information. One of the many ways an individual inadvertently dims their own light is through the worship of the fetish of luck. They believe that everyone else is fortunate, while anything they attempt ends in failure. They fail to recognize the tireless energy, relentless focus, heroic courage, and sublime patience that lie behind the success of others. Their luck was simply the result of having prepared themselves to seize their opportunities when they arose and being alert enough to recognize and grasp them. Meanwhile, their own chance may come and go unnoticed, as they remain lost in dreams of some undiscovered fortune that would come easily to them. He becomes discouraged and envies those he should look up to. In doing so, he restricts his own potential and numbs his energies, performing his duties in a half-hearted manner, or simply skimming through life, sampling various activities without commitment. True and sincere struggler must always remember that failure is merely a chapter in a man's life, never the entire narrative. Although facing failure is never easy, and no philosophy can change that, having the steadfast courage to confront challenges rather than complain about them will guide him forward. It will continually empower him to make the most of what he has. He remains unaware of the long series of defeated failures that contribute to another's success, and he fails to grasp the sacrifices that a rich man, often the target of political dissatisfaction and manipulation, has courageously made in pursuit of wealth and status. The man who carries a pessimist's doubts about everything, who demands a certified guarantee for his future, who constantly fears that his work will go unrecognized or unappreciated, or worse, that it simply isn't worth the effort, will never truly live his best life. He is dulling his capacity for genuine progress with a hypnotic routine of excuses that justify his inactivity, rather than embracing a powerful tonic of motivations that drive him to act. One of the most detrimental factors in a person's character is the surrender to the passage of time. A man's self-confidence often fades away in the fear of aging. He might say, "This new idea," referring to a suggestion that promotes higher development, "is great, it's exactly what we need. I'm glad it's available for my children. Would have loved to have had such support when was in school, but it's too late for me. I'm already advanced in age." This mindset is merely a blind refusal to see the wondrous possibilities life still offers. The tolling of lost opportunities never echoes in this life. It is never too late to recognize the truth and choose to live by it. It demands only greater effort, heightened attentiveness, and deeper dedication. Yet, the concept of impossible holds no weight for a confident individual who is ready to invest the time and endure the struggle necessary for success or personal growth. As one progresses through life, the stakes become higher, much like in life insurance. But this holds little significance for that robust self-confidence, which remains ageless as long as knowledge keeps it youthful. Socrates, with his hair turning white from the frosts of age, took up musical instruments. Cato, at the age of 80, embarked on his journey to learn Greek, while the same age found Plutarch, filled with a boyish enthusiasm, beginning his Latin lessons. Theophrastus started his greatest work, The Character of Man, on his 90th birthday. Chaucer's Canterbury Tales emerged during the later years of his life. Ronsard, the father of French poetry, whose sonnets defy even translation, did not truly cultivate his poetic talent until he was nearly 50. At this stage in life, beginning to new manuscript, Benjamin Franklin had just begun to take significant strides in his philosophical endeavors. Arnauld, the theologian and sage, translated Josephus at the age of 80. Winckelmann, celebrated for his writings on classic antiquities, was born to a shoemaker and lived in obscurity and ignorance until he reached adulthood. The English philosopher Hobbes published his version of the Odyssey when he was 87, followed by his Iliad just a year later. Chevreul, the eminent French scientist whose relentless work in the field of color has profoundly enriched our understanding, remained active, sharp, engaged in his pursuits until death came for him at the age of 103. These remarkable individuals did not shy away from the challenges of aging. Instead, they stand as beacons of hope and encouragement for anyone who may feel their courage and confidence faltering. The pursuit of truth, a higher existence, and genuine growth in every aspect of life is always accessible, as long as one does not close the door on it themselves. Let a man truly feel this, believe it, and make this faith a living, breathing part of his life, and there will be no limits to his progress. All he needs to do is live his best at all times and remain calm and untroubled, regardless of the results that follow his efforts. Constantly looking back at what might have been, instead of forward to what could be, greatly undermines self-confidence. Worrying about the past and expending energy on things that no power on earth can restore only diminishes an individual's faith in himself and weakens his resolve to develop into the best version of himself for the future. Nature, in her infinite love and tenderness, tells a man who is weary and worn from the struggle, "Do the best you can with the task at hand, however small it may be. Approach it with the best spirit of preparation for the future that your thoughts inspire. Bring forth all the knowledge from the past to guide you. If you do this, then you have truly given your best. The past is forever sealed away from you. It remains permanently beyond your reach. No amount of worry, struggle, suffering, or despair can change it. It exists as far beyond your influence as if it were a million years of eternity behind you. Instead, take all that past, the sad hours, the moments of weakness and sin, the opportunities squandered, and transform it into light. With confidence and hope, redirect your focus toward the future. Illuminate every ounce of truth from your past to ensure that each small moment in the present becomes a new memory that you will joyfully look back upon. Each moment can serve as a grander, nobler, and more perfect preparation for what lies ahead. The present and future you create from this moment are yours to shape. The past has returned, with all its messages, history, and records, to the God who entrusted you with those precious moments to use in accordance with His law. The royal road to happiness. Throughout my entire life, have not experienced 24 hours of happiness. So remarked Prince Bismarck, one of the most prominent statesmen of the 19th century. 83 years of wealth, fame, honors, high-ranking power, influence, prosperity, and triumph, years during which he held an empire in his grasp, but not a single day of happiness. Happiness is the greatest paradox of nature. It can thrive in any environment and survive under any conditions. It transcends external circumstances. It comes from within. It is the manifestation of the depths of our inner lives. Much like light and warmth reveal the presence of the sun from which they emanate, happiness is not about having, but about being. Not about possessing, but about enjoying. It is the warm glow of a heart at peace with itself. Martyr at the stake can experience a happiness that a king on his throne might envy. Each person is the creator of their own happiness. It is the fragrance of a life lived in alignment with noble ideals. For what a man has can make him reliant on others. What he is rests solely with him. What he obtains in life is mere acquisition. What he attains is real growth. Happiness is the soul's joy in possessing the intangible. Absolute, perfect, and continuous happiness in life is impossible for humans. It would imply the complete realization of one's achievements and a consciousness fully aware of a perfectly fulfilled destiny. Happiness is paradoxical because it can coexist with trials, sorrow, poverty, and poverty. It is the joy of the heart rising above all circumstances. Happiness has several counterparts, gratification, and then pleasure and contentment. These two are always incomplete. It represents a thankful acceptance of a portion of what one receives, and every perspective derived from the quality of what's won. It is a mental pleasure derived from the quality of what one receives. but accompanied by a lingering dissatisfaction regarding the quantity. While it may play a role in happiness, it is not happiness in itself. Satisfaction, on the other hand, is the perfect alignment of our desires with our possessions. It exists only as long as this ideal union and harmony can be maintained. However, every realized ideal gives rise to new ideals. Each step forward uncovers vast areas of what remains unachieved. Every fulfillment ignites new desires. Consequently, our desires and possessions become misaligned, no longer equal. Fresh cravings emerge, prompting new actions, disrupting the balance in our lives, and inviting dissatisfaction back into our lives. Person might possess everything tangible in the world, yet still not experience happiness, as true happiness belongs to the soul, not merely to the mind or body. In its most profound sense, dissatisfaction serves as the driving force behind all progress. It signifies new aspirations and promises the unfolding of new possibilities. Contentment is an overrated virtue. It's akin to diluted despair. It embodies the acceptance of substitutes without the pursuit of true fulfillment. Contentment leads the trained individual to choke down vinegar while attempting to savor it as if it were fine wine. Contentment allows one to warm his hands by the fire of a past joy that exists only in memory. It serves as a form of mental and moral chloroform that numbs the individual's drive to rise to higher planes of life and growth. Person should never be satisfied with anything less than the best that their nature can secure for them. While contentment may make the world feel more comfortable for the individual, it ultimately signals the end of progress. One should be content with each step of progress as a station along the journey, but discontented with it as a destination. But discontented with it as a destination. But discontented as a finality. There are moments when a person should be content with what they have, but never with what they are. However, it's important to note that contentment is not the same as happiness, and neither is pleasure. Pleasure is fleeting, while happiness is enduring. Pleasure is a note in a song, while happiness is a symphony. Pleasure may exist even when one's conscience raises protests. Happiness, on the other hand, never can. Pleasure may have its dregs and residue, but none can be found in the cup of happiness. Man is the only creature capable of true happiness, while the rest of creation experiences only weak imitations, mere understudies. Happiness embodies a harmonious alignment of life with a standard of living. It cannot be created by an individual solely for themselves. It is one of the incidental byproducts of a selfless life. No one can make their happiness the sole object of their existence and truly achieve it. It is one of the incidental byproducts of a selfless life. If you wish to hit the bullseye of happiness on the target of life, aim higher. Place other things above your own happiness, and it will inevitably come to you. You can purchase pleasure, you can attain contentment, and you can find satisfaction, but nature never placed genuine happiness on the bargain counter. It is the inseparable companion of true living. Happiness is calm and peaceful. It does not thrive in an atmosphere of worry or hopeless struggle. The foundation of happiness lies in loving something beyond oneself. If you examine every instance of happiness throughout the world, you'll discover that, once all the superficial details are stripped away, there is always a constant and unchangeable element of love, be it a parent's love for a child, the love between a couple, the love between a passion for humanity in some form, or an important life mission to which one devotes all their energies. Happiness is the expression of optimism, faith, and unwavering love. No cynic or pessimist can ever truly experience happiness. Cynic is someone who possesses a kind of moral myopia and takes pride in it. He recognizes the flaws within himself and believes he can judge the world through that lens. He allows a speck in his eye to shadow the brilliance of the sun. An incurable cynic is a person who should long for death, since life holds no joy for him, while death might. The essence of Bismarck's unhappiness stemmed from his deep distrust of human nature. There is a clear path to happiness, It encompasses consecration, concentration, conquest, and conscience. Consecration involves dedicating one's life to the service of others, to a noble mission, or to realizing some selfless ideal. Life should not be merely something to be endured. Rather, it is something to be aspired to. It is a privilege, not a form of punishment extended over so many years on this earth. Consecration elevates the purpose of life beyond the mere pursuit of money as an end goal. Person who is selfless, smiling, kind, loving, compassionate, and eager to ease the burdens of those around them. Someone who uplifts the weary and occasionally forgets their own needs in favor of others is on the right path to happiness. Consecration is always active, bold, and assertive, fearing nothing but potential disloyalty to higher ideals. Concentration, on the other hand, simplifies and deepens individual life. It strips away the facades and pretenses of modern living, focusing life on its truest essentials. Worry, fear, useless regret. These are all the significant drains that deplete our mental, moral, and physical energy, and they must be sacrificed. Otherwise, we risk needlessly destroying half the potential of our lives. Grand purpose in life. Something that weaves together the strands and threads of our daily thoughts. Something that alleviates the sting of petty trials, sorrows, and anguish. And mistakes serves as a powerful ally to concentration. Soldiers in battle may forget their wounds, or even become oblivious to them, inspired by the fight for what they believe is right. Concentration brings dignity to a humble life. It can elevate an ordinary existence into something sublime. In moral terms, it acts as a shortcut to simplicity, guiding us toward what is right for its own sake without consideration for strategy or reward. It bestows calm and rest upon the individual, a serenity that is simply the sunlight of happiness. Conquest is the triumph over a negative habit, the ability to rise above opposition and attack, and the spiritual uplift that comes from resisting the encroaching materialism of life. There are times when you feel weary and weak from the struggle, when justice seems like a distant dream, and when honesty, loyalty, and truth appear to hold little value, leaving the impression that the devil is the only reliable paymaster. In those moments, as hope begins to fade and flicker, it's essential to rise with unwavering faith in the belief that righteousness will ultimately prevail. You must confront and silence the demons of doubt and despair, mastering yourself in order to master the world around you. This is what conquest truly means. This is what matters. Even a log can drift along with the current. But it takes a man of strength to fight against an opposing tide that threatens to steer his vessel off course. When the jealousies, petty intrigues, meanness, and misunderstandings of life assail you, do not succumb, rise above them. Be like a lighthouse that illuminates and beautifies the raging, tumultuous waves of the storm that threaten it, waves that seek to undermine and wash over it. This is what conquest is all about. When the opportunity to gain fame, wealth, success, where the fulfillment of your heart's desire arises at the cost of your honor or principles, and it fails to tempt you even for a moment, you have emerged victorious. This, too, is conquest, and conquest is an essential part of the journey to happiness. Your conscience acts as your mentor, your guide, and the compass for every action, leading you ever closer to happiness. When an individual can sit alone with their conscience and earn its approval, without resorting to force or hollow reasoning, that's when they truly begin to understand what real happiness is. However, one must be cautious not to appeal to a conscience that has been twisted or numbed by wrongdoing and the subsequent deafness of its owner. The man who is earnestly striving to live his life in consecration, concentration, and conquest, navigating each day as best he can with the light he possesses, can place his full trust in his conscience. He can turn a deaf ear to what the world says and discover, in the approval of his own conscience, the highest earthly testament, the voice of the infinite connecting with the individual. Unhappiness stems from a yearning to receive. Happiness arises from the desire to give. True happiness inevitably carries the essence of sorrow endured, the sense of pain softened by the passage of time, and the lessons learned from loss that, in the beautiful mystery of life, transform our suffering into love and empathy for others. If an individual were to dedicate just one day to spreading happiness, to making life a bit happier, brighter, and sweeter not for himself, but for others, he would unveil a profound revelation of what happiness truly is. The greatest heroes of our world cannot achieve as much genuine good through acts of heroism as an individual can by dedicating their entire life to the pursuit of making others happy. Each day should bring a renewed sense of purpose, fresh strength, and invigorated enthusiasm. The phrase "just for today" could serve as a daily motto for countless groups across the nation, uniting members in their endeavor to improve the world through simple, consistent acts of kindness and continual expressions of love and compassion. And in doing so, happiness would come to them in its highest and best form, not because they sought to absorb it, but because they aimed to radiate it. The end. Thank you for listening on AudioBook Heritage. Subscribe for more timeless classics.